Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous Hour. My name is Dave, forever an alcoholic. Can we start again, Billy, by saying a big thanks to yourself and everybody here at the radio for inviting us back this year.
It's a pleasure. Happy New Year.
Great to be here, and Happy New Year to you. We're shortly going to be introducing one of our members who are going to share their story with us. But before I do that, I'd like to ask Dec to read the preamble, which is something that we use at the start of every meeting, which basically tells you very simply what AA is, what it does, and I guess what it doesn't do. So over to you, Dec.
Thanks, Dave. My name is Dec and I'm an alcoholic. This is our preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve the common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied to any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety.
Thanks, Dec. That's great. And could we now get our guests today to introduce themselves, please?
Hello there, my name's Giles. I'm an alcoholic.
Welcome, Giles. Good to see you, and thanks for coming along today to share your experience, strength and hope with us. Can you start us off by giving us some idea about your background, your childhood, where you're from, etc.?
Yeah, I'm not originally from the Black Country, actually.
You've done it again, David. You're bringing them in from across the border.
I do consider the Black Country my adopted home now. I've been living here 23 years now. So, but yeah, I grew up in Devon, actually, in a sort of small seaside town, bit of a touristy place really that was pretty much asleep for 51 weeks of the year and then came alive for its annual folk festival, but had a very nice normal upbringing really, just mum and dad and a sister, and nothing particularly eventful there really. Everything was sort of calm and lovely, so no sort of particular troubled background to sort of relay or anything really, but just a very nice ordinary childhood really.
Okay, nice part of the world.
It was a nice,
nice part of the world. So when did you tell us about when you got into drinking then, when you had your first drink? And
the first drink was very young actually. I think my parents had the idea that if you introduce the kids to like a little sip of wine at Sunday dinner or at Christmas, maybe even something a little bit stronger at Christmas, or my dad would have a beer before lunch on a Sunday, and let's try a little sip of that when we were really quite young. And I think the idea was that if you introduce kids to alcohol at an early age, then they won't think it's any great big thing, and hopefully not have a problem with drink when they get older. And with my sister that worked really. She can sit and nurse a glass of wine all night, and before it's finished think about putting the kettle on for a cup of tea. But my sort of relationship with alcohol was always very different. And when I look back now, I can remember even if I saw my gran going towards the sherry cupboard, or dad pouring the wine out at Sunday lunchtime, it was always I'm going to make sure my glass is empty so that it gets nice.
So what sort of age were you when that started?
The odd little sip at Christmas from quite a young age, sort of 6, 7, 8 probably. Then when I got to my sort of early teens, it would be like a glass of wine with Sunday lunch and things. But I liked the taste of it, but also liked it gave me a nice sort of warm feeling in my tummy, and I just liked it really. And I didn't ever think at that time they might have a problem with it, and maybe I didn't. I don't know. It's just, all I know is that I have now.
And how did that progress then? So when you got into your teens, that was a more regular thing, and
and I can remember sort of like getting any opportunity perhaps to sneak out some of the bottles that were hiding at the back of the cupboard. The sort of stuff that people bring back from holiday, and then it tastes horrible, and you get it home, so it moves to the back. But I'd even try and sneak out an odd bit then, and then I actually came to Birmingham to study. I came to Birmingham into college and lived in halls of residence, and drank like a student, as all students do. And I think the difference for me is after I graduated and I moved back down south for a bit into Berkshire. And although I'd then got a job and everything, I still seemed to carry on drinking like a student really, and didn't ever grow out of that sort of level of drinking, really, and got away with that for a good few years, really, and I think people were saying, Giles likes a drink, and but it was almost like a little bit of a badge of honour and stuff, really, you know.
It's a bit of a man thing, wasn't it? It's what we did, wasn't
Very
it?
much, yeah.
Where I come from,
and,
it was.
you know, I wasn't very good at much else, really, but, you know, having a, you know, oh yeah, Giles can hold his drink, you know, but, you know, behind the scenes I was putting in quite a bit of training for that, sort of in the week, you know, when drinking on my own and stuff. And, you know, I suppose, you know, late 20s I started realising that actually I'm drinking quite a bit more than most other people, and started being a little bit sort of secretive about it sometimes, I suppose, really. And then you get in the news the stuff about like the government's guidance about how many units of alcohol you should drink a week or whatever, and I was thinking, oh yeah, I'll start following those, but I'll do that after my birthday or after Christmas or when I get back from holiday or when I start this new job or whatever. And it was always putting it off, really. You know, during that time it just increased, I suppose, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think the weekly allowance is probably what we do in the first couple of hours, isn't it? That was the difference. Yeah, I don't know how people stick to that.
No.
So you just said there that you got to your sort of late 20s and you realised that you were maybe drinking that bit. Were your friends and your drinking buddies sort of saying you got a problem, or? No,
and I got away with it. You know, I was, as I said, starting to hide it. I remember like some friends turned up unannounced one Friday night and decided they'd come to visit and invited themselves to stay over for the night. And I was like, you know, 3/4 through a bottle of wine, even though it's quite early in the evening. By that point, I remember like trying to hide it, but yeah, did and managed to get away with it. For quite a few years, it was probably into my sort of mid-late 30s that people started becoming a little bit worried about how much I was drinking, and I'd sometimes make excuses not to meet up with people. I started, phoning in sick for work a few times and things as well, because I was, too hungover or still under the influence from the night before, I suppose, really. So that was mid to late 30s. It started sort of impacting on my life, really.
Right.
Becoming more difficult to hide it, I suppose.
So are you still functioning though, work-wise?
Oh yeah.
Just a lot of us do, don't we? We're still
and then as I said, over the next sort of quite a few years, the absences from work started increasing. 'Cause I wouldn't go into work and I wouldn't drink at work, but the impact of the night before or whatever was really starting to take its
Did
toll.
that become a problem work-wise then, with the people questioning?
Yeah.
So it was always a Monday morning, was it? And
not necessarily.
Okay.
It's, I think to the point where if I'd had a bad day, I'd have a drink. If I had a good day, I'd have a drink. Or
Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
There was no differentiation really between what day of the week or and then once I'd perhaps phoned in sick to work or given some reason why I couldn't be in, it was like I may as well have a drink then. And that would then start a real binge, which is not a good place to be. Really.
No. So that caused issues. Did you actually lose jobs because of that, or?
I did quit my job. I'd had a discussion with my boss, and decided that it perhaps was a good idea not to to continue really. And I'd already started accessing some of the alcohol support services.
Right. Okay.
Really trying hard to control my drinking really, and I was determined I was going to do it, but every time I tried, it just...
So was that purely because you felt yourself, I've got a problem here, I'm drinking too much, I'm drinking more than my mates?
There was the kind of the shame of it, really, and I was, desperately worried about people finding out and going to all sorts of lengths to hide it, really. I live on my own, but I was still hiding drink around the house things like that, and began to think I was going a bit mad, really, and, being very aware of, like, when I put the black recycling box out, that people might be, I don't suppose anybody was actually that interested in so how many bottles were in there, but I liked it to look, well, everyone knows Giles likes a drink, but it wasn't that bad. But probably over 3/4 of what I'd actually consumed was, being secreted around to the bottle bank in Sainsbury's car park.
Boxes were good. Wine boxes were good, I thought. They didn't make as much noise when you drop them in the recycling bin.
They used to, I'm sure they never actually held as much as they said they did on the packet, though, because they always seem to go down a lot quicker than the bottles.
Funny that, isn't it? Yeah, they evaporate. So you mentioned that you tried some of the other support services to try and cut your drinking down, sort of.
I did, and I don't want to knock those because I think they do a lot of good with people. There are people who have got a problem with drink who can learn to control their drinking.
Sure.
It took me a long time to realise that I'm not one of those people, but I really don't want to knock those. In fact, I you know, I did go and work with one of them for a while after I got sober. But it's you know, it's where I suppose the lack of honesty in my, you know, not actually being honest with myself about my own drinking. You know, when I put that black recycling box out that I said about, and you know, they were like, you know, enough to say that I'd had, you know, sort of 40 units of alcohol. So I used to work it all out, you know, really precisely. When I put that on the curbside, in my head, that is actually what I had drunk, even though like the vast majority had gone into the bottle bank. And similarly, when, you know, I kept the drinks diaries for them, they ask you to like set yourself targets of how many units you're going to drink each day. And
so you win yourself down, don't you, over a period of time?
Yeah, and you know, I used to get quite creative about doing that, really. And I thought at the time they believed me. I don't suppose they really did, actually. But, you know, I'd you know, use different pens, and I'd make it look like I'd been filling it in every day, whereas I'd usually done it the night before. And, you know, I remember once going in and, you know, I diaried in that I'd had a little blip at the weekend, but I'd pulled myself back from it. It was all absolute rubbish, really. And, you know, the guy said, oh, you know, well done. You know, Saturday wasn't good, but Tuesdays now, you've not had a drink since. And I was sitting there thinking, you sucker. You know, I had 3 bottles of wine last night. And, you know, and I don't suppose he did believe me. But, you know, I was the loser for that, really, because I just wasn't prepared to get honest about it, really.
No, and that's the key, isn't it? It's that honesty that we eventually get with an A. So what made you finally decide that obviously you tried that wasn't working for you? What made you get to AA?
It wasn't by any intention. Quite a few people have been suggesting AA to me for quite a few years, you know, including people at the alcohol support service. And I thought, oh God, it's not that bad. You know, it's was.
Is that because of a bit of a stigma about AA, that you've got to be a park bencher? Or?
Yeah, I thought almost the opposite of that, actually. I didn't think that the kind of park bench drinkers, and I like to think I probably thought I knew everything there was to know about AA, but actually I knew nothing. And you know, my knowledge of it had come from watching sort of dramas or the brilliant episode of Father Ted when Jack accidentally stumbles into an AA meeting, and so I thought it was kind of like that. I suppose I saw AA as being like the alcohol police. Really, I thought it was a kind of a respectable middle class sort of organisation where people had an issue with alcohol because they might have got caught driving over the limit or something like that, and decided to stop, and then decided to spread the misery of not drinking with the rest of the population, really. And I honestly didn't believe that anybody in AA could possibly have drunk the way that I did, really. But I learned otherwise when I actually did decide to come in, really.
So did you, what was the final straw then? Did you have we call it a rock bottom?
Yeah, you know, I can't afford to forget what that was like, really. And it's I've been going in and out these services for a while, and I'd you know, had a few visits to A&E on the way, really.
Right.
Sometimes because I just drunk too much, but I injured myself quite badly once and fell down the stairs and fractured my skull. But it didn't hurt because I was so drunk at the time. Then you know, I had to have surgery to put my face back together again afterwards, and the scars soon healed. And although I did try and stop, and I think I did stay off for a couple of weeks after that, and went and had a detox, you know, the memory of that even faded very quickly, and it was like, it'll be okay this time. And the brakes really came off my drinking then, and you know, I had so much alcohol in my system at the end when you know, my parents were down in Devon and knew that something was really wrong, and drove all the way up, and you know, I was a bit of a mess. When they found me, I had to go into Russell's Hall Hospital, and you know, it took them 6 days to get the alcohol out of my system safely, and it scared the life out of me, if I'm honest. You know, I mean, I was bad, but there were people in there that were in a worse state than me with alcohol. You know, they put the curtains around the hospital beds, but they don't make them soundproof, and I could hear this guy being told what would happen to him if he drank again. And then 10 minutes later, I saw him trotting off down the corridor, and you know, on his way to the Tesco over the road from the hospital, and it just scared me what would happen if I drank again. That I could end up like that, but I didn't know how to stop drinking. So I went back to the alcohol support service, and you know, with a view to trying to stop drinking, but I still didn't actually consider AA even at that point, really. But if people know these services, they're not always the best organised. And they said, "Oh, we're starting this group again on Thursday. Oh, we think it's this Thursday, but it might be the Thursday afterwards." Because I live close, I went down for the Thursday, and it wasn't that week. It was the week after, but they'd given somebody else the wrong date as well, and that person who's done this programme is also a member of this fellowship. And rather than just go, "Oh, aren't they useless, let's come back next week," he stopped and chatted to me for an hour.
Right.
And he was 2 months sober at the time, but was coming to AA, and just told me about his story, really, what drink had done with him and everything, and what difference being sober and being a member of AA was doing. He said he'd been told to do 90 meetings in 90 days, which is a thing a lot of people are told. And I thought, blimey, you must be bad. Because I couldn't get my head around that kind of. He said, "Look, there's a meeting in here on Monday. Why don't you come along?" And we swapped numbers and kept in touch. And he's still a really good mate today, and persuaded me to come to my first meeting. Really, it was the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah. And how was that first meeting? It's a bit daunting from my memory.
It wasn't half. And if people know the service that I'm referring to in Lye, there's a big car park in front of it, and I swear I've been in that building many times, but I swear the car park was twice the size. That day, it just seems such a long walk. The walk of shame.
Yeah.
You hear people call it to go across. There. But my mate was there at the door and talking to a few others, and the woman that was chairing the meeting came and introduced herself to me, and it was absolutely the last place in the world I wanted to be. It was like, has it come to this, but the next hour and a half made me look at things very differently, really.
Brilliant. And you've been, can you tell us how long it is since your last drink?
It's nearly 7.5 years now.
Wow.
So it was August 2015.
Yeah, brilliant.
That I last took a drink, and I'd had that spell in Russell's Hall, and a few days under house arrest with my parents, and it was only it was partly, if I've got to be absolutely honest, it was partly to get them off my back that I agreed to come to an AA meeting. That's not the reason you should come, but
no.
But I learned that I had to be there for myself, really. The rest is history, really.
Well done, mate. Well, I think we're ready for your first record.
David Bowie. So, I mean, you said before we come on air it was difficult to pick a David Bowie song.
It's impossible to pick a David Bowie song. So I just went with the first one that I actually bought. I think I was about 12 or 13 when Boys Keep Swinging came out.
Yeah.
And I'd kind of been aware of him and knew that he was quite an interesting character and liked his music a bit. But when I saw the video for this, On Top of the Pops, where he's in drag as the backing singers, and he's really not taking himself very seriously at all, and all the band are playing the wrong instruments on this track as well, and it's a very sort of ironic and a bit satirical song, really, but it's just good fun, and I really like it.
Gary James should be here, because Gary James is one of the hosts on Black Country Radio, and he swears that David Bowie changed his life.
Oh yeah, I mean he's been with me all through my life.
Yeah, without a doubt. So we'll hear this then. It's David Bowie and Boys Keep Swinging.
Cool.
Heaven loves you. The clouds part for you. Nothing stands in your way when you're a boy. Clothes always fit you. Life is a pop of the cherry when you're a boy. When you're a boy, you can wear a uniform. When you're a boy, other boys check you out. You get a girl. You say your favorite things when you're a boy. Boys, boys,
The best in news, views and debate. The best in local music and sport. Black Country Radio. It's all about you.
Thanks for that, Billy. Nice track, that, Giles. Yeah.
I like it. It's fun.
Yeah, a good one. It's a good one. So you told us just before the break that you were 7.5 years
right,
now without a drink. Can you tell us how that feels to have that length of sobriety under your belt? And did you ever imagine you'd get that length there after your first meeting?
Certainly didn't imagine. I kind of thought that AA was something that you did for 3 to 6 months, and then you were fixed, or or it didn't work, and you went off and hit the park benches or something, I suppose, really. But now I remember the meetings are structured that often someone does a longer share, as we call it, to talk their parent experience, strength and hope. And the guy that did mine was 33, celebrating 33 years sober, and said that he was still doing 3 meetings a week. And I thought, that's really sad. Why, if you've not had a drink for 33 years, would you still be coming to 3 meetings a week? That's starting to make a bit more sense to me now that I've been sober for a few years, really, because I still get a lot from the meetings, and I still feel that I need them. Just a kind of a top up. I still try and do 2 or 3 a week myself. Now, and it's just that feeling I got on my first meeting. So I didn't really have very high expectations of it, if I'm honest. But I remember coming away just thinking, maybe this might actually work. Because I could see that people were getting well, and there were some people that were worse than me, that some that weren't as bad as me, and some people that were a few days, a few weeks, and people with several years under their belt, really. And there was a good feeling there, and I just thought, maybe, just maybe. So I agreed to come back a couple of days later, and then really started packing the meetings in, because I wasn't working by then. And rather than sitting at home climbing the walls trying not to have a drink, I found if I went to a meeting I felt better. And I still do. If I go to a meeting, I still do feel a bit better. I can never forget to remember how, I can't afford to forget how bad the place alcohol took me to, really. And that was a lot of my problem in the past. Really, I'll be all right this time. It never was. And when we meet newcomers at meetings, or try and do a bit of service, or picking up the helpline to people and stuff like that, it just it was that bad. And you need to keep doing this, and that connection with other people that have got that shared experience and the same desire to enjoy life sober, really. I still, ever since that first conversation that I had 7.5 years ago, we kept in touch every day. But now there's not a day goes by when I don't at least exchange a few text messages, or have a call, or a coffee, or a curry, or go for a walk with another member, really. And that feeling connected is a really big part of it for me, and it's enjoyable as well. I think if I go back, I was told that if I was an alcoholic, that I could never drink safely again for the rest of my life, and that was sort of daunting, for want of a better word. And but I was told it's just a day at a time. And I introduced myself as Dave, forever an alcoholic, because it's a reminder to me that I'm going to be an alcoholic till I die of something else, hopefully. And but we just keep it in the day, don't we? It's just one day at a time. But it's that acceptance that what we are, and getting involved in that fellowship that keeps us sober, and there is a life outside of drink. Absolutely.
And enjoyable.
Yeah, very much. Very much so. Life's definitely a lot better now. Being a drunk and trying to hide that fat is really hard work. But to be free of that now, and I met great people. Yourself one of them. But a lot of really good, proper friends.
We've had some, because you can remember probably. I've had some of the best days out, nights out with AA friends. there's crowds of us go for a curry. You get 20 odd people in a curry. There's not a beer in sight. The strongest we get is soda water and lime, and yet the enjoyment at that table is just fantastic.
It's great, and to go from a point where I couldn't imagine being awake and not having a drink in my hand, because that's how bad I was. Drinking kind of round the clock. If I was awake, I was needing to be drinking really to a point now where, generally I go through a day without having thinking of a drink at all. And if I do, it's just like, it tastes
Fleeting.
nice, but wouldn't that be stupid?
No, can't do it. Can't do it. Okay. So your life has changed for the better since you came into the fellowship.
Very much.
Yeah. So how does that feel? I mean, we're never cured. We know that. No. We're recovering alcoholics. How does that feel? How do you manage that on a...
Yeah, it's very much the work in progress thing, really. And, it says in our book, Alcoholics Anonymous, that, we're not saints. We strive for progress. And that's, there's always there's work to do on ourselves. But actually, when you're doing it with other people, that's quite an enjoyable sort of process, really. Because, there's always someone that you can turn to. And if you find yourself sort of dealing with thoughts and feelings that are a bit hard to sort of process, really, the best thing to do is pick up the phone and not a drink, really. And thankfully I've not had to pick up a drink since I came to that first meeting. The alcohol was out of my system by then. But that there are people who will help or I can get to a meeting. There's meetings online as well, particularly sort of from lockdown onwards. Really, there's always someone and somewhere that you can go to just to sort of like, do you know what, my head's about to explode today? And just actually saying that sometimes is enough, or just asking somebody else how they are. To take you out of that kind of indulgent self-pity.
There's always somebody who feels the same as you, or experienced the same
absolutely.
issues that you've got. It's just the way it works, isn't it? People have been there, done it, got the T-shirt sort of thing. So you 7.5 years, have you seen much change in AA in that time in terms of the way it works, or?
One thing I really liked from the onset really was that the meetings are quite structured and things like that, and they're not formal, but people keep to time. People are quite punctual, and we have the readings like Deck read the preamble for us, and we usually have a reading from the book Alcoholics Anonymous, and we're saying the Serenity Prayer at the end, to whatever you believe God to be or not, really. But I like that, and I like those traditions that are quite set in AA, really, that people have learned a lot from experience about what works, and suggests we stick to it. Obviously, when we went into lockdown and all the meetings had to close for a while, people just stepped in. There were WhatsApp groups are set up, and a mate of mine set up a little meeting on Skype that a few of us were, and then because Zoom took in, really. And I think for me, lockdown would have been a perfect storm, really, of like, right, nobody's going to come round unexpectedly. I don't need to be anywhere, and the off licence up the road is still open. It'd have been an absolute recipe for disaster. So, that Zoom's been there and made AA accessible to people in a different way. And of course, there are still Zoom meetings going on.
Still there. I mean, I think during that time, albeit it was very difficult because they closed the live meetings down, and that's the medicine that we need on a regular basis. I actually think we came out of lockdown stronger as a group, because
I think so. Yeah.
And we've got people we talked about earlier on that, and we've had doing some of our earlier shows here. We call them our Zoom babies. And they came in. Their first meetings were on Zoom, and they got sober, and they've started doing the live meetings since. And they're working their sobriety hard, and it's fantastic to see.
It's so incredible. I really respect people that do that, but just the creativity about how we could safely meet. During that, I started going to a meeting that was in a barn down in Gloucestershire. Someone said, "Oh, there's no walls on the side of this barn. It's undercover," and it was just a men's meeting. It was just great to go down to that.
But you can get on even now. There's still meetings. You could get on, any hour of any day somewhere in the world. There's an AA meeting, and you can get onto them. I've done stuff in Australia and New Zealand and America. They're just all over the place. It's absolutely fabulous.
Yeah,
absolutely fabulous to see.
But it is good to be back live, and what as well as hearing people share and the readings and stuff, I like looking around the room, and when people saying something and you can see other people just kind of like nodding in agreement, or kind of that little ripple of laughter, like, oh yeah, I did that too. That's that, when you really know that you're not alone, when people, even if people haven't got the confidence to talk themselves in meetings, just to see their face kind of like, oh yeah, that for me is where some of the magic happens, really.
Yeah, I think that's the key, isn't it? Because I think in my early days, I remember my first meeting was one of the main shares, a big share, and it was horrendous. And this guy was a park bencher, and I thought, I haven't done any of that. And, I've got a big, well-paid, respectable job. Still got the wife, the kids, the car, the house, all the rest of it. And but I was told, well, that's the differences. Stay around and listen to the similarities. And sure enough, people, shared back and you could just relate to what people were saying. Yeah, crikey, I've done that. I've behaved like that. And that's when you get it, really.
Yeah, I was told the same. Listen to those similarities, and I don't know whether it was some sort of gift that was given to me that day, because usually I was trying to find every get out clause.
Of course, you don't want to be there,
because I don't want to be like. But it was like, it didn't take me more than a couple of weeks really to think, I am one of you lot, and that's okay. It felt all right. It was because you were all doing something about your problem and enjoying life.
Yeah. There's no shame in that, is there? I mean,
not at all.
And for me, that we say in our step one, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and our lives had become unmanageable. That was the key for most people. And it certainly was for me. And I tend to say, look, I use a stronger word. It's acceptance, not just admissions, just to sort of say, I'm an alkie, but acceptance is, for me, is sort of almost in my heart, in my soul, in my DNA, and that sticks with me, and that keeps me through, keeps me sober a day at a time.
Absolutely,
It's the way it works. It's a beautiful fellowship. Okay, so you're living proof that there is another satisfying, enjoyable life after drinking. What would you say to people that are out there listening and maybe thinking, I can relate to that. I can appreciate what he's saying. Maybe I've got a problem.
Yeah, I mean, don't waste 9 years like I did. I think it was probably about 9 years between me sort of trying to access some support with drinking. When I started trying to stick to those government guidelines for units of alcohol and found I couldn't, and tried to stay. Was still trying to do that. For the sake of an hour and a half in your life, to come to an AA meeting and just put any prejudice or any preconceptions that you've got about what AA might be like just to one side for an hour and a half and give it a go. And if it's not for you, you're never under any pressure to come back.
No.
People don't keep tabs on you. People don't start hounding you if you don't want to come back. But they're really delighted to see you if you do.
Sure.
And particularly when you see people come to their second meeting, people are genuinely pleased because they want other people to share in what their own experience.
Sure.
Really. I remember there used to be meetings in Wolverhampton every morning when I first came in, and I used to, it was a bit of a lifeline for me really, going up there during the day because I've got no work on at the time. And I remember a member who'd been around for a few years up there, and he was setting up the room, and I came in, and I think I must have just started getting it and looking, physically better after the thing. And he turned around and came and he beamed and he said, I love see people getting well. I thought, that's really nice, but now that means a lot more to me because I've been around long enough to see it myself and see people come in just like, what's all this about? Is it really me? Am I really an alcoholic or whatever? And then you see them, pick up the coins that we get for 24 hours. If you make it through your first day without a drink, and then the intervals after that, it's a beautiful thing to see really when people do start actually looking and sounding so much better.
And I think that's the way it works, isn't it? People, there's nobody judges you. We don't diagnose people as alcoholics. We don't tell them they're alcoholics. It's up to the individual to decide that they are, and there's no shame. I think that realisation, there is no shame in that. The shame is if you don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Because AA it's not a cure. There is no cure for alcoholism, but it's a way just to keep it in remission for the rest of your life, provided that you do as suggested.
Yeah,
and
and
work
try
the
and do the
program.
right things. Yeah, we've got this 12-step program that we
yeah.
try and work to the best of our ability. You know, and I stuck around for a bit and then found someone that I respected that had done that, and asked him to help me with that. And it is very much about daily daily contact with someone else, just doing some reading and getting to a meeting when I can, and then trying to sort my life out with the help of others, really.
Great. I think we're ready for your second record now.
We are, yeah. This is a bit punky, so...
It is, yes, I am.
So did you go through the punk area then?
I did. Well, as a teenager in the late 70s, that was very much my thing, and growing up in what was very much a retirement town, I think, perhaps the need to...
But you stuck out like a sore thumb, didn't you?
Well, I did. And I mean, it's one of the reasons why I kind of moved away and wanted to come up here, really. Having people that had come to that town to retire and then, like, tutting at me in my bondage trousers. I looked and, like, come on, I was born in that hospital over there. Don't you move to my town and tell me how to look. But there were two bands that I really loved from that time and still like to listen to now. The Stiff Little Fingers that you're going to play and X-Ray Specs. And both of those bands weren't into the kind of I hate everybody and let's destroy the world. And that there was a positive energy about there. And this song Nobody's Hero, I like it because it's very kind of anti-rock star song, but it just ends with the line, be who you are, or be what you are, which is kind of like on the coins that I mentioned, it says to thine own self be true, which is a quote from Hamlet, but be what you are is the same thing, really, isn't it? It's just be true to yourself, really. I like
Great
it.
stuff. Let's have a listen to it then. Stiff Little Fingers, Nobody's Hero.
Thanks for that, Billy. Another was a bit of a different track, Giles. I don't.
Yes,
I can't imagine you as a punk rocker somehow. But
Shocking ourselves in the mosh pit.
Oh, I've been there.
Before we kick off again, can I ask Dec to just enlighten us on the contact details? If anybody's out there listening, how they can get in touch with us and take it from there.
Certainly can, Dave. Yeah, there's various ways to contact us. You can use the free phone number, which is 0800 9177 650. That's 0800 9177 650. You can always jump on the website as well. So if you just do a search for Alcoholics Anonymous UK, it'll take you to our national website. And in there you'll find various ways of contacting us as well. You'll have that phone number again. You'll also have an email address, which is help@aamail.org. You can also find a meeting if you do feel you are struggling. And you just type in your town or your postcode, and it'll give you the meetings, the time of day, and the days of the week where they are nearest to you. Thanks, Dave.
That's great, Dec. Thanks for that. And I think there's an awful lot on that website actually, and there's a lot of stuff. If you are new in, there's sort of questionnaires about, am I an alcoholic? And you tick the box on certain questions, and then you can helps you make your own mind up whether. But the where to find as well. I mean, it is live meetings, but there is a section there where you can get onto. There are Zoom meetings still all over the country, all over the world. So that gives you access to
I didn't mention there is also a live chat feature as well, where you can you can chat to a person who will reply back to you in real time.
Yeah.
I forgot about that, so sorry.
Okay, we'll let you off.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for that, Giles. So going back, you were telling us that you were recommending to people that are out there listening that might be thinking they're a bit of a problem, that they should just give AA a go and.
Very much so. Yeah, I said a meeting's usually about an hour and a half long, and there is never any pressure. That's what I like. When I first. We usually have banners up in the meeting rooms with this 12-step program on, and I thought it must be like some sort of NVQ system that you had to get things signed off or whatever. It's not like that at all. We just suggest this program, and some people, and I think if you don't go with it, you're missing out a little bit. But people do stay sober just by sort of coming to meetings. Mm-hmm. But if it's not for you, people ain't going to hound you or try and tell you. And I thought it was the rules that you had to say, my name's Giles and I'm an alcoholic when you came to a meeting. I refused to say it at first because one, I didn't want it to be true, and two, I thought I was being a bit naughty and a bit rebellious, really. But nobody batted an eyelid, really. And but now I'm quite happy to say that because I know it's true, and I know I'm in good company when I'm with another group of alcoholics, really, and just that feeling of togetherness is it just makes things feel so much better, really. And if it's not for you, that's fine. But unless you give it a try, you won't.
No, you won't know. You won't know. And I think you're right in terms of sharing. I mean, I remember going back thinking, "Oh, blimey, I can't share what I've done and how badly I've behaved." And then you sit and listen to it. I mean, there's nothing. There is nothing that I've done that I haven't already heard, and 10 times worse. And
I think it's that feeling that I'm not the worst and I'm not the best or the least worst either. I'm just somewhere in the middle, and that's actually quite a nice place to be, really, just knowing that you're one of a group of drunks that are trying to get well, really. And
the beauty is that we don't do that now. We don't behave like that because we don't drink. We don't pick up that first drink. It changes the way that you live your life, the way that you behave, the way that you relate to other people. It just
and there's humour in that, but people don't laugh at you; they laugh with you because they've done something similar. They can understand, what motivated you to do that. So I was like, oh, I never thought of that. And it's like, but it's a good place to be.
No, it's a good place to be, and there's a lot of inspiration there, I think, from people that have been around. Even I find I've been around quite a lot of years now, but I get more inspiration about people that have been in 6 months, 18 months, that have really seemed to work it so much harder than what I did, and you can just, I think we said earlier on, you can just see people recover and see them look better and feel better, and it's just it's an absolute joy to see them.
It recharges me hearing stuff like that. It keeps me motivated, and that one day at a time thing. I think when I first heard that, I thought, oh, you're just kidding yourselves, really. You know you're never going to drink again, really. But thought that was something to do with willpower, and it's not. But if you just keep it in the day, because we can't control what's going to happen to us tomorrow,
no.
and what's done is done. It's in the past. And,
Yeah,
you know, we might be able to do something about making amends about that, and trying to set old wrongs right, which is what our program helps us to do. But actually, all we've got control over is what we do today.
Sure,
really,
sure.
And that's, you know, and today I'm, you know, not planning to have a drink. That's all that matters.
I think that becomes the norm, doesn't it?
It
I
does.
think that, you know, once you get a few, I don't know, you get a bit of time under your belt, you feel physically better. The alcohol is physically out of your system, so you tend to sleep better and all the rest of it. But then, you know, the sort of mental side of that kicks in, doesn't it? The psychological side, and that desire to drink just disappears.
It does. I think I've been around about 3 or 4 months, and it was coming up to about Christmas time, actually. And I just thought, I haven't thought about having a drink recently, and it was just like, you know, it felt odd, but good, really. But that's not to say I can afford to be complacent. Because now I know, and it's, you know, it's absolutely ingrained in me that if I chose to drink again, because it would be a choice that I'd make if I chose to have a drink again, that I'd have to pay the price for that, and that price could be high.
I think one of the regulars at one of my local meeting always says, if that thought does come into your mind, just replay the tape for when you were drinking, and see where that would take you, and you know that's frightening to most people. So
it is.
You just don't,
it's terrifying. And you know, when I do meet, you know, if I pick up the helpline to somebody, or if I, you know, see a newcomer at a meeting and they're a bit battered and bruised, it was that bad. You know, I know that, and that's what keeps me. Yeah, one of the things that keeps going, partly because I want to see people there.
Sure,
I enjoy the meetings.
Yeah.
You know, go for a coffee afterwards. Or you know, I was at a member's 60th birthday party last night, and there were people from the AA fellowship and people that weren't there, all having a good time.
Having a good
together.
time.
It was great.
Yeah, that's great. So, you know, given the time since your last drink, you still come to meetings. I know I said earlier on, we're never cured. What keeps you coming to those meetings? Why do we still do them?
It's all about the people. It's all about making sure that I never get complacent about this. You know, we've got the book Alcoholics Anonymous as well, and that's usually read from. And at one of the meetings I go to quite regularly, we actually sort of work our way through that, and then go back. And I seem to get something different from it every time. I mean, you know, people say, "Oh, it was written in America in the 1930s. What relevance could it have for me now?" You know, I swear when I read some of that bit, someone was stalking me before because it talks to me about my condition. When I hear other people like share what that means to them and how they can relate to that just helps me feel really sort of grounded, and that's certain that if I chose to have another drink, it would be my fault, and I know what the consequences would be of that, really. But it is a pleasure. I do actually genuinely enjoy the meetings. I've never found it a chore, even now, to go to them. No. But that's not to say it's a social club. It's
no.
You know, this is potentially a life and death.
Well, it is.
Matter.
It is. Yeah, that's what keeps us alive, isn't it?
But you know, if my mate hadn't taken that hour to talk to me about what meetings were doing for him and trying to work the program, then I may not be here now. And that's I'm not trying to be dramatic about that, but that's the reality. Or if you know, my life would not be in a good place if I was still alive, really. And that's, you know, that seriousness about it. Whilst we might laugh a lot and we might do a lot of really good fun things together, you know, alcohol would have killed me.
Sure.
I know that. No, it nearly did twice. And you know, I can't afford to go back to that. But also, for me to help keep what AA has given me, I need to keep sharing that with other people as well. And
that's how it
meetings
works,
meetings is a way of helping me do that.
I mean, you said there that book was written, I think it was actually published in 1939, and it's very Americanized. How is that relevant today? But it's been working for all those years. It's saved, you know, millions and millions of people's lives. So, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, sort of thing, isn't it?
Well, that's it. And that's how I feel about the meetings and the daily routine. I mean, we have little obviously we've got the book Alcoholics Anonymous. We've also got little books of daily readings, and I like to start the day by just sort of touching base with one of those, just to remind myself, and then I take my dog for a walk and have a think about what I've read, and just kind of like make sure that I'm not trying not to be in the driving seat, have too high expectations of other people, and blame everybody else for everything that goes wrong in my life, and take personal account and responsibility. And it just gets the day off to a good start for me. And just,
it's a way of life, isn't it? It's a way of life.
Can I have another sober day, please? And at the end of the day, say it's been a good day. I've not picked up a drink today.
There's a bit of there's always a bit of controversy, I think, with newcomers come in, that this is there's a lot of God, the mention of God, a lot there. Some people are, some people are convinced it's a religious program, and I think it started off as being, based on a religious thing. But these days we don't say that. It is we don't call it God as in a Christian God.
It's not for me, and the guy I chose to help me understand the 12-step program and to take that through me, really helped me with that God doesn't have to be what you've read in any particular religious scripture or heard from a pulpit or in a synagogue or mosque or temple or anything. It's actually what you understand that to be. And for me, it was just that feeling that I got feeling a bit better when I've been in a room with a group of drunks is one of the things that we say.
It's the power of the rooms.
It is, and what that power means to me now, I can't really put into words, but that doesn't matter because it's mine and it's there. But it's certainly not. If you have got a religion, that's fine.
Some
and
people
if that
do.
relates, if you relate it to that, then that's great. But as I mentioned earlier, the one kind of like bit that seems a bit is when we say the serenity prayer at the end of a meeting, but that's to whatever you understand a power that's greater than you and greater than alcohol to be.
I think that we're about there, Giles. Thank you so much for coming along and sharing your story with us. It's been an absolute pleasure. And ready for your last record?
We're going out with Bruce Coburn.
Yeah.
What a player, what a guitarist. I think he sort of came in the shadow of Neil Young, really, because Neil Young was at the forefront and then he drifted underneath. And we said off air, I remember listening to him at the old Virgin store by Corporation Street. So, what a track. Why this track?
It's called Strange Water, and it's kind of linking with that understanding of God being whatever you think it's being. I like his songs because they like look at the beauty, but also the troubles of the world, and not trying to make sense of them, but just trying to say that's the way life is, and there's something that's guided you through life in these paths, but rather than try and get bogged down by trying to understand it and make sense of it, just let go of it, and then you might take flight, as the last line suggests.
Great. So here we are then, Bruce Coburn. Absolute pleasure.
I've seen a high cairn kissed by holy wind, seen a mirror pool